Welcome to E4 Electric live from Bangkok, and we got some big news in the electric car world. We have a new electric car brand, which is actually a resurrected brand by Volkswagen Group called Scout Motors. And of course, you guys are thinking about it like, hey, Alex, I'm sure you're very excited as an electric car enthusiast and a host of an electric car channel. And I got to tell you, I am not. I am not excited about this brand at all. As a matter of fact, I think it's a waste of time. I think it's a kind of a dud already, even though they are not unveiling, or they've unveiled. So they've unveiled the two vehicles already. So it is the SUV and the pickup truck. They had a big unveiling, and they've announced the specs, they've announced the timeline, they've announced everything, except for none of it is impressive at all. As a matter of fact, you're probably wondering like, hey, who put another badge on a Rivian truck? And by the way, if one thing that Scout Motors was kind of known for, right, their signature look was their round headlights. And one job their designers had, right, was to keep those headlights. And guess what? We're looking at yet another whatever horizontal bullshit and by the way, this is not the first time a Volkswagen Group did this. By the way, this is a brand resurrected by Volkswagen Group. This is not the first time they did it. Remember the Volkswagen Bus, the iconic van that what I think is another shameful, cheap imitation of a legend. Same thing. They had one job, is to keep the round lights, and they screwed that up. So now, of course, you're looking at this thinking like, a guy, that sure looks like a Rivian. Well, I got to tell you, it looks like a Rivian, but it's not a Rivian when it comes to specs. Even the specs that they gave us already are not very impressive. But keep in mind that these two vehicles are not going in production until pretty much 3 years from now. And as you know, the timelines change, especially when it comes to first vehicle of the brand new brand. We've been fooled before, so there's no reason for us to believe these guys. But let's say 3 years. In 3 years, the specs that are quite average already, I think it's like 325 or whatever miles of range. The charging speed is not that impressive for what it is. I don't see how it can compete with Rivians of the world, with the Hummer EVs of the world, and it's a dud. It's a dud, especially because why do we need this brand? Why do we need this brand, and why do we need this 3 years from now? We all know the pricing is not going to be the same, right? I mean, when was the last time any brand that came out with a pickup truck kept their promise with their pricing? I mean, some of it is 50% more from what originally was promised, whether it's a Cybertruck or F-150 Lightning or a Silverado EV. I just don't get it. And it's a disappointment because the guy in charge is Scott Keogh. He's a former CEO of Volkswagen Group of America, actually one of the best executives I have met in 8 years of doing this. So I actually had high hopes for him to do this. And I got to tell you, to me, this is a failure. There's nothing about this truck that needs to be on the market that hasn't been already done. How are they going to compete in 3 years with Rivian? That's probably going to have over 500 miles of range by then. Silverado EV will for sure have over 500 miles of range. I think they're already over 400. I just like, I don't understand how Volkswagen Group thinks. And don't get me wrong, they fired Herbert Diess, the guy who was actually resurrecting the entire brand successfully, and they hired the worst possible guy who can run Volkswagen Group, which is the Porsche CEO, Blume. And now you're seeing the results. It's not. By the way, this week was announced that Volkswagen is closing down one of their all-electric vehicle factories. That's how bad they're doing under Blume. And this is yet another, I predict, failure from Volkswagen. And it is very unfortunate because we're supposed to be excited about it. When a new brand comes on the market, we want that brand to push the existing brands that maybe got a little stale, maybe got a little lazy, maybe got a little bit too much into their routines. And a new brand is supposed to push an envelope, whether it's with this software or with maybe design or some specs like Lucid, for example, right? Best range, fastest charging time, faster 0 to 60. This brand's got none of it. It is going to be best at nothing. And it's going to be at best average at everything. So it is a failure, if you ask me. And I do not genuinely understand how Volkswagen Group thinks they're going to compete with this piece of shit. It is a loser on arrival. Now, you're probably asking, but Alex, everybody loves Scout Motors. Yes, they just came out, last week. Every single electric car publication, every single, automotive publication have been praising them. These are the people who saw them in person. They went to the media event and they love it. Well, if you've been watching my channel for a little bit, you probably already know the answer. As a matter of fact, I've reported on Volkswagen and Volkswagen Group specifically as a brand that actually bluntly and in writing banned me from their media events because they did not like my criticism of course, you guessed it, the Volkswagen bus. In my defense, though, it is a horrible attempt at resurrecting a legend. And I think it's already showed in European sales, and I think it's going to do the same in America. Did not really work out. But when I, suggested that the look is not there, in the inside or out, and I believe I said that the Volkswagen Buzz looked like a Ford delivery van dressed up as the Volkswagen minibus for Halloween. They did not like that. Now, granted, as that video came out, I was having dinner at their media event with Scott Keogh, out of all people. But they, in writing, told me that we don't want somebody around who is critical of our brand. So that is why you have to understand. And like I said, go ahead and watch my videos with all the evidence and emails and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, Volkswagen Group will not allow any publication, and no publication like Electric or Inside EV wants to mess with Volkswagen Group, right? They rely on coming to these events, getting the footage, being the first ones to review it. A lot of times they get some extra time and in-person time with their vehicles behind the scenes ahead of the unveiling. So when the unveiling happens, they already have the videos coming out with their reviews. None of these publications can afford to lose that. The only guy who was willing to do it for his journalistic integrity and just because I like sleeping at night is this guy. But the reason for that is that I don't need the money at the end of the day. They all do a lot they require, but I don't. I love my life here in Bangkok. I have other means of income, so I don't have to suck their, So, but all of these guys do, Electric and Inside EVs and everybody else, including the Motor Trend, right? I don't think that Motor Trend is somehow above everything. So that's why you have seen all this amazing reviews of Scout Motors. And pretty much almost nobody mentioned that, hey, these specs aren't very good. These specs are not going to do us any favors. This brand cannot be competitive, especially when they're going to be coming out with every specs in 3 years. This brand doesn't even look like what they're supposed to make it look like from the models that they had in their own. I mean, these guys are so freaking stupid. They literally had their big promotion videos leading to the event and at the event where they showed what the Scout Motors design looked like, back in the day. And one thing that, like I said, everybody thought, well, those round eyes, right? And they're not there. We can talk about this all day, but at the end of the day, this is why the mainstream electric car media praise this, as they always do. It is not a secret that that's what you have to do, and that's one of the reasons that I have really stepped back in covering things, sort of in a way that I used to cover. And don't get me wrong, I used to be one of them. I used to enjoy those trips, but at that time, I didn't have to lie. I did not have to lie to you guys. and tell you how great these brands were, because they really were. And at that time, a lot of these unveilings and media events were about the cars that didn't really hit the market. They were first EVs, so there was not much criticism to go around. There wasn't anything that you can criticize, right? Like, oh, this car looks great. The promises look great. It's great that the brand is going in an electric car direction. And there was nothing negative to say. It wasn't until they started making them and it started, like Rivian and Tesla started screwing their customers, started breaking promises, starting jacking up prices on reservation holders, and then essentially covering up by never allowing media that has any criticism towards them. So that's why you're seeing a lot of this positive, and we'll continue, by the way, seeing all this positive coverage. But let me tell you, and by the way, you don't even have to listen to me. Turn your brain, turn it on, turn your brains on, and you will see that these guys have the specs that are just either average or subpar. Just compare it to the Rivian, since the cars look like the Rivian, especially the truck, right? And you will see that it is just basically a knockoff, a cheap knockoff. Have you ever seen like a Gucci purse that's a knockoff of an actual purse? And I doubt that my audience is into purses, but generally speaking, when there's a knockoff of a purse that some girl's carrying, the stitching is off, the material is not premium, it's not leather, falls apart, the hardware is cheap. It's not even gold plated. It's essentially just painted. This is how I feel about Scout Motors. So don't let the mainstream EV media fool you. This is a nothing burger, unfortunately. All right. So first of all, let me say hi to a few people who are in the chat. By the way, I'm sorry I was 10 minutes late. I hate being late, but I played soccer, and because I already posted and did all of my thumbnails and stuff like that for this live stream, I was like, oh, I can start it at midnight my time, right after my soccer game. And I was like, all right, all I have to do is just stop by this little street food vendor that I love. They cook my food real quick, usually like 3 to 5 minutes, and I'll be good. Just take a shower after the game. And my goodness, I guess, I don't know if I just showed up as everybody else showed up right before me, but I had to wait for like 20 plus minutes. So I literally ran home after this, jumped into the shower, turned the lights on, and boom, here I am. So I apologize. 10 minutes late, still 30 minutes earlier for, if we count in Elon's time. All right, let's get to some questions in comments. Garrett says, I think the Scout looks great and appeals to broader audience by offering that gas range extender. Oh, I forgot about that piece of shit. Okay, so yeah, that's right. Unlike Rivian, I see it as a win-win because not everyone wants a full EV. So yeah, so here's the thing. I do agree with you that a range extender is a pretty good idea. Not an idea, but the good option, right? BMW i3 offered it pretty much, all plug-in hybrid. That's what a plug-in hybrid is, right? It's an electric car with a range extender. However, I would be praising this if Ford did it with their F-150 Lightning, right? If GM did it with the Silverado EV, it would be like, all right, that's great. But if you're putting a brand out there that is a brand new brand, walking into this next century, next generation of cars which are electric, and you're still saying, hey, you know what? We should make sure that our customers put gas into our car. Why? If you're a new brand, you're supposed to come to the market with 700-800 miles of range. Turn some heads. You're a new kid on the block. You have to make your name for yourself, and do things better than others, especially if you're giving yourself 3 freaking extra years. 700-800 mile of range, then yes, boom. And then you don't need a range extender anymore. So, yeah, obviously it appeals to the broader audience. But what I'm saying is that if you are resurrecting the brand, right, they didn't need to resurrect the Scout Motors brand. They could have named it blah, 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 and it would be a new brand. As a matter of fact, it would be actually much easier to fight the dealership model that they're trying to fight now. But they've decided that, oh no, we're going to resurrect this particular brand. And like I said, one thing, like, I'm not into this type of brands from the 60s or 70s or whatever. And even I know that, Scout is all about, you know, so like I said, it's just, to me, it's, if you're a new brand, you have to go all electric. You can't basically say, yeah, we couldn't come up with a range that these, vehicles really need, so we're going to go with the gas technology. Like I said, perfectly fine for legacy manufacturers like Ford and Chevy. As a matter of fact, I think they kind of missed the boat on that one. I mean, yes, they can still do it, but that would have been a good idea. But it's definitely not for a new brand. Rob Miller is here. How are you doing, Rob? Why would you knock off a car that is unattractive and made by Ford? Not so much. Well, they knocked off a Rivian, I think, right? And I think Rivian is attractive overall for a truck, right? I mean, you can only do so much with the design of a truck. I mean, you can make it look much worse, like if you're a Cybertruck designer. But it's hard to make these trucks and utility vehicles look beautiful. But I think Rivian is a pretty good looking one. So yeah. Now Massey says Volkswagen gave $5 billion to Rivian. I'm sure it's not just for software, but for the Scout vehicles. So right now they have not confirmed. People asked them that the software is going to be from Rivian. As a matter of fact, they kind of hinted that it's going to be their own software, which is amazing. Now, don't forget, here's the thing. Let's talk about the deal between Rivian and Volkswagen. Now, of course, it is ironic that Volkswagen Group has fired Herbert Diess, a guy who led them out of the Dieselgate into the future of electric cars and was doing pretty good. They fired him because they didn't like the way he did software. Now, I did not like the way Volkswagen did the software either. They completely fucked up. I had an ID4 and I basically hated it because of the software. Otherwise, now it's a much better car because the software has been more or less fixed. And they brought up the worst possible guy to lead the Volkswagen Group, which was a Porsche CEO, Blume, Oliver Blume. And he was CEO for a couple of years. And all he could come up with is, let's give billions and billions of dollars to untested startup Rivian for them to share their software with us. Just that alone should have gotten him fired. But, Porsche's got Volkswagen Group by their balls, so nothing's going to happen. Now, here's the thing about this particular deal. If you know anything about Rivian, think of Rivian as Taylor Swift, okay? It just never had a successful relationship and usually breaks up with their boyfriends very, very shortly after the beginning of the relationship. So, Rivian had deals with Amazon and Ford and a couple of other big manufacturers, and all of those deals fell through. As a matter of fact, there's some lawsuits going on, and Rivian just cannot keep a long-term committed relationship whatsoever. So this $5 billion, I don't think Rivian will ever see all $5 billion, because at the end of the day, it seems like they're not able to play nice with other kids on the playground, and it probably Volkswagen will break this relationship off Taylor Swift style, minus the song, probably, and Rivian will once again not achieve the sort of the agenda of that partnership. So I would not really count on this partnership as a saver for Volkswagen Group. Now, if they are, they're stupid, but they are led by a stupid man. So at least when it comes to electric cars and software, so this, I guess, would be on brand for them. But as far as this money is concerned, like I said, don't think that Volkswagen brought this money in hands and suitcases and just handed it over to Rivian. This money is going to be paid over several years of the partnership, and Rivian will have to hit some milestones. They will have to play nice, which again, I believe they're just not capable of, not with RJ Scaringe as the CEO, who, is a very likable guy. And definitely, in person, he's an amazing guy, but he's not a very good CEO, I think, for the brand. So, Massey T, just because you saw the headline doesn't mean really it's going to happen. Like I said, Rivian and Taylor Swift just has a very similar history of long-term relationships. All right. Piotr says, Piotr Smolinsky, Scout looks better than Rivian. I mean, listen, you can't argue in terms of taste, but I don't think it is a groundbreaking design. When you're launching a new brand, you need to distinguish yourself from others. And being just a little better in one thing is not it. Massey says, Alex, what's your take on the more affordable vehicles Tesla will be producing in 2025 by their Q3 filings? I don't believe them. So first of all, what is it that they've announced? They have not announced a new vehicle except for the robotaxi, and the robotaxi is not going to be a thing until they solve the full self-driving problem, and they're really bad at it. I don't expect them to solve the full self-driving problem until probably 3 years from now. So what new car are we talking about? I don't. And by the way, I think Elon just called it, I think, silly, the concept of a cheap $25,000 car at this point, which he might be right. I think the average cost of a new car in America this year is very close to 50,000 at this point. So, asking for $25,000, half of an average price of a Tesla brand, that's a little silly, I think. So I would agree with them if I don't remember the exact quote, but it's not Tesla's job to sell affordable cars. I mean, they are premium brand. I don't see why, but in terms of price, I guess the technology makes them a premium priced brand, but it is it's a nothing burger. Like I said, until we see a car and I see the plan to go in production, do not believe Elon Musk and Tesla. They've lied to all of us so many times. Why would you take anything that they say seriously anymore? I genuinely don't understand. I genuinely don't understand why people still take him seriously at his word when he lies and lies and lies about almost everything at this point. I don't think there will be ever an affordable Tesla. Like I said, it's not their brand. It's not their job. I think the robotaxis are nowhere near next year's release or whatever. There are also regulations that will prevent them launching this nationwide, and definitely in Europe, where regulations are even more strict. The FSD was just caught hitting a deer without stopping, full on. The footage is on Jalopnik, I think. Like, they're not ready, and so the robotaxi, forget about it for a while, and the affordable vehicle that is going to have to be driven by a human is just not there. It's not on the map. Now, some people say, hey, they probably announced the robotaxis just to hide the fact that they're going to make those cars into this cheap, affordable vehicle. They're just going to add the wheel. I don't think they need to do that. I think they've played their game pretty good as far as keeping the designs of their vehicles close to themselves, right? The Cybertruck was never leaked. The robotaxi was never leaked. The refresh of the Model 3 was never leaked. So they're running a pretty tight ship, right? Unlike Ford, for example, where Mustang Mach-E was unveiled because they posted it on their own fucking website, like, accidentally a day before the actual unveiling. So Tesla doesn't need this. I don't see how there will be any affordable vehicles coming from Tesla, probably ever, but definitely not anytime soon. Let's move on. Sebastian says, wow, live stream just got interrupted by an ad. Is this normal? Well, I gotta eat. I still just because I live in Bangkok doesn't mean I don't have to pay rent. It's not as high as in America, but I still have to. Yes, so that's normal. Unless, so I haven't seen ads on YouTube in a long time, but that's because I have what was called YouTube Red and now YouTube Premium or whatever, where you pay like 10, 12, 15 bucks a month, and you never have to see an ad in your life. Or as long as you have $15 a month life. All right. Hello from Calgary, says cold Tesla. That's on brand. It is cold in Calgary. Calgary Flames in the NHL are doing pretty damn well this season, actually, surprising everybody. So Jack Sky says maybe the purpose is only a way for the Scout Motors is only a way to start selling online and avoid all dealerships. Well, I don't think they're going to win that battle no matter what, because at the end of the day, they are a Volkswagen Group brand, and it is not a new brand. They're still owned by Volkswagen Group, and it looks like they're probably going to have to settle or just be completely just like Ford, right? Ford got their asses kicked by the dealerships and they spun off a separate company and all that stuff. So we'll see how it develops. But like I said, they did not need to resurrect another brand. They could have just come up with their own brand, all right. Oh, Big Star 1972 said, very on brand with your username. I had a 1972 Scout and it was awesome. I'm sure it was. I don't think the new one is going to be as awesome, just like with the Volkswagen Buzz. Vanessa May. There's an amazing violinist player, Vanessa May. All right, on to my second Zoe. And wow, Zoe, Renault Zoe was supposed to be like essentially the BYD Seagull, or no Seagull, yeah, whatever, the affordable EV of the future, and they completely dropped the ball. I have not even heard of Renault Zoe in a long time. And when I was in Europe, I visited 3-4 countries this year in Europe, and I think I might have seen maybe 5 Zoes altogether. Let's see. They own Navistar for years, so they own the Scout branding. It came with a Navistar division of trucks, which they had for decades. Oh, that's fine. Listen, however it fell in their lap, but they didn't have to resurrect that. They could have just started another brand. I personally love the fact that they did the resurrection of the brand, but they did just such a horrible half-ass job, and I think they're going to fail at it. I mean, they will sell some of them, but the specs will have to be updated by 2027. By the way, why do we even give a shit about 2027? You know what I mean? Like, we don't even know some of the cars that are coming on in 2025, right? A lot of them are being delayed. A lot of them don't come with the options they were promised. So do we give a shit about 2027? Like you know what I mean? I don't think most people do. The only good hybrid is REEV fueled with e-methyl there. No, I think, well, I don't care about hybrids, but plug-in hybrids, I think they're a great gateway drug into electric cars for people who kind of want to just try it out, and then they can have the sort of a peace of mind that they can always use gas if they run out of the range. I had a plug-in hybrid. I had one of the best plug-in hybrids of all time, the Chevy Volt, and I absolutely loved it. And it was kind of great that I was like, yeah, most of the time I will just use my electric range. I had it in Las Vegas, which is relatively small city in terms of how much area you usually cover on a daily basis, like 20 miles at most. But then after that, I was like, oh, no big deal. I have some gas in my tank right now. No big deal. I was never had the range anxiety. And I think that's a great thing for plug-in hybrids, because people will not have range anxiety. Like I said, this is not a bad idea, just not for the brand new brand. And yes, Rob Miller is right. It does look like a Bronco, and Rivian had a very ugly baby. I love my R1S. This is not that. Well, it does look, the truck looks like R1T, especially from the side, right? You can see that. Sorry. Ricky says, Rivian looks like the knockoff of the Scout 40 years ago, modernized with EV. Then Scout revitalized its original vehicle in EV petroleum option. Volkswagen has the budget to pull it off. Hats off. Yeah, no, Ricky, sorry. Rivian is a knockoff of the. No, they don't look anything alike at all. Like not even a little. So it's yeah. Plus, there's only so much you can knock off actually, in pickup trucks. But to me, it's not just about the design. It's just like the closest vehicles that already exist, like the Scout Motors vehicles, are Rivian vehicles. So it's not even just knockoff in terms of how they look. It's just the specs and the pricing, of course. Um, I, Sebastian said, "I've never seen an ad during a live stream." I don't know what to tell you. Maybe it's YouTube that needs to pay rent. I don't know what to tell you. Um, Jorge Cintron says, my theory is Elon flipped and is pushing for um, DT to win. Donald Trump to win so he can get regulatory approval for FSD. He's that committed. It has nothing to do with the usual politics BS. Well, I yes and no, right? Yes, definitely Elon Musk will be in charge of all of the departments that oversee uh, the businesses that he's in. And that is awful, right? That is very anti-consumer. And I can totally see how it would happen if Trump wins, right? Um, but I also feel like Elon is actually passionate. I think he is completely batshit crazy about most of the stuff that he says lately. But I actually think he is passionate about what he's saying, you know so I think it may be half and half, and at the same time the regulatory things, uh, the thing is Democrats won electric cars, so working with Democrats on that might just be even easier than working with Donald Trump, because Donald Trump has not essentially been a partner to his supporters from the campaign to his presidency a lot of times, including his own cabinet members. So I think Elon is smart enough to know that there is no way to get on the good side of Trump. If Trump has other interests or the other laws he needs to pass that are not beneficial to Tesla, then he's going to do that. And Elon's support from back in the day is not really going to mean that much. So I don't think there's as much of an evil plan here, though there is some, as you may think. But I could be wrong. We don't know, right? Um, Mox says, I'm dreaming of a reasonably priced family car with good range. Would simply go for a Nissan Leaf if it wasn't for the Chanamo. Yeah, they need to update themselves to 25 years from then. Uh, um, Okay, I'm late to the live, but on a new Scout, unlike Rivian, this is a set on a ladder. Oh, don't start with that bullshit. It's a what is it, body on frame bullshit. It's not good enough to come up with a new brand saying, "Oh, look what we're doing, body on frame." Not good enough. It does have a solid rear axles with mechanicals, lockers. I do agree that they should have kept old headlines. All right, so we agree on some. Um, you can more likely say that the Rivian Cockpit Scout body style. You're the second person saying that, but I just don't see it. And like I said, don't get me wrong. I think from the side, um, the truck, the pickup truck looks very similar, but they all do. So to me, it's not just a knockoff in visually. It's just, again, the closest competitor, right? The closest truck and SUV I would compare the Scout vehicles to would be Rivian, and it's very similar. That's why it's kind of a knockoff in terms of, there's nothing original, there's nothing that's better. And yeah, okay, body on frame, I know it's important to some, but most of these people who are going to be buying these for $80,000-$90,000, you think that the body on frame is really the design that they really care about? You really think they're going to go off-roading where it's like the most important, right? They're not. So let's not kid ourselves and think that somehow is such a big deal. It is not. Let's see, did I miss anything? It looks like Bronco. Yes, I actually forgot to mention that. Okay. All right, I think I'm kind of all conned up, but this By the way, thank you to all of you who have started suggesting some of the names from my new channel that I'm starting, and I have added them to my list of all the new names, and I'm getting excited because I'm this. Here's an interesting thing, right? So this is a little bit off topic, but we're going to talk. This is a little bit of Trump topic too. So I'm putting together a channel with a course that I'm going to sell about modern dating for men, and how I suggest that they all do what I've done, which is move out of America from a Western country, go to traditional country like Thailand, Philippines, South American countries, whatever. And so I'm putting together a guide on how to do it, right? How to plan your sort of finishing up your life in the Western country, planning your move, picking a new country, and starting your life in the new country. And that's it's probably going to be a 10-hour course. Like it's very detailed. But then I realized that, once I film my course, and as I film it, I need to be a little bit more, flexible. If I just take out all of the dating stuff from my course, right? Because essentially it's for men who want to date traditional women in Western countries. The course will essentially be how to move out of America to another country. And I think if Donald Trump wins, there will be a lot of people who would actually seriously be considering that. And I'm actually hoping to sell my sort of subset of videos, which would be a separate course, how to move out of America to another country, to those people who want to move out of America because they think that Donald Trump will ruin it. So that's kind of interesting idea that I came up with, and I think that that might actually work. Maybe dump it on Udemy or something like that, where I don't really need to promote it. I don't need to have my own channel to promote it, right? So that's kind of an interesting thought I had um, with my new channel. Rod Miller says, I believe Donald Trump supports the idea of EVs, but prefers a more organic adoption process rather than accelerated push that might harm existing businesses and industries. Well, what businesses is this really harming? Like gas industries? I think they're going to be okay. The green energy in general has brought a lot of jobs into America, right? The latest bill that was passed, that you only get the tax credit if you are making these cars and batteries in the United States, kind of an America first bill from Democrats. That was interesting. So but I understand that Donald Trump supports the idea of EVs being more organic adoption, which is fine. I mean, it's not fine, right? Because the government's job is to look after things that we cannot look after, like as individuals, like the how clean the air is, right? That's the job of the government. We cannot come to the local factory that's polluting and say, don't do that, our children are getting lung cancer, right? It's the job of the government. So it is the job of the government, and in best interest of the government, to transition the economy into a green economy where the quality of air is better and not dangerous for your lungs. Because I got to tell you, I live in Bangkok, and it is a freaking problem. Like, I will have to stop playing soccer because it's only outdoors here when the pollution reaches certain levels. I won't be able to take walks at night that I like to do usually around this time. When the pollution levels are high, I might have to go to like a gym and walk on a treadmill, which is not really the reason I like walking. And many other things. I hate wearing a mask, and I'll have to wear N95 mask just to cross the road. So no, it is a job of a government to look after the little guys, the little people like you and I. And supporting electric vehicles is not like, well, let's see what the market's going to do. No, I think it's the job of the government to do everything they can to subsidize it, like they subsidize gas industries, right? They're still subsidizing gas industries and the gas that you put into your gas cars. So yeah. And honestly, I don't think Donald Trump really gives a shit about being pro EVs or anti EVs. I think he's anti EVs because Democrats are pro EVs, right? I feel like it's the agenda of both parties. Oh, you guys are for EVs? Oh shit, EVs are the worst, right? Let's hate EVs, you know. And I think both sides do this, and this is just unfortunately became a political thing. Where, by the way, in no other country it is a political thing. It's not here in Thailand. Everyone's like, oh yeah, electric cars helping us breathe and not get lung cancer. Why would anybody not like it? So, you know, there's no industry here also creating conspiracy theories about electric cars so they don't happen. You know, it's just like it's not. I mean, this is one of so many reasons why I really love here, living here, is because there's not much bullshit going on with stuff like that. Um, All right. Well, so this question I cannot answer. I mean, I don't predict the future. I don't know enough about the battery technology because I don't give a shit about it. You know what I mean? I mean, I want it to be better, but I don't give a shit about how chemistry works and getting into the battery chemistry. I just don't care. Just somebody come up with better batteries that can be charged faster, that don't catch on fire, and that give me great range, and we'll be good. So I can't comment. Rob says we need gas for a very long time. That is true. That will not change anytime soon. That will give time to evolve these green initiatives. Well, okay, Rob, let's be honest here. The latest bill that was passed by Democrats with some help from Republicans that Donald Trump opposes is this: if you build your cars in America, hire American workers, pay American taxes, then you will receive the $7,500 tax credit for the car. And if you build it in China or Germany, you're not going to get it. That is a pretty damn good policy, if you ask me, right? It's essentially incentivized, and it's happening now. A lot of automakers to build factories in America, to start making batteries in America, paying taxes, hiring people, which is a problem right now. Uh, giving Americans jobs. So why be opposed to that? Give me a reason. And all right, and Rob is while I'm waiting to get a reason from Rob, I am getting 50 American dollars for him. Thank you, Rob. As usually, you are by far the biggest super chatter of all time on my channel. Even when I used to do live streams back in the day, I appreciate it. Like as always, here in Thailand, if you want to know how far $50 would go, you multiply it by about 5. So essentially, think if you just got $250 if you live in America. That's how far this goes. So, by the way, I don't know if you can hear it. My voice is crap. Unfortunately, I'm stuck with this medical condition that makes my voice crap out once in a while. Right now, it's okay, but sometimes, like I've canceled my live stream, I think several weeks ago because I just could not talk. It hurts. So, excuse me. Yeah, it hurts like hell, and it's sometimes I'll lose my voice because of this. It sounds like the older that you get, the more you feel like doctors are giving up on your problems, right? When you're young, you go to a doctor and doc's like, oh, of course we're going to fix this. I mean, we cannot let a 22-year-old walk out of a doctor's office not all fixed up, right? But now when you're older, right? I'm almost 50. They're like, well, you're getting old and we don't really know exactly what's wrong with you. Why don't you take some Advil and Tylenol or whatever, And I got to tell you, I have amazing doctors here. I mean, I go to one of the best hospitals in Southeast Asia with Western educated doctors. They're really, really good. It's one of the reasons I live here, actually, healthcare. And, my doctor was like, yeah, I like, this is after they shoved the camera up every single hole I have. Sorry to share too much, but it's like, and now they're like, yeah, we don't know why this is happening, so it's a bitch. So I just gonna have to live with it and figure it out on my own. Like, how many have you noticed that with time, doctors become less and less useful unless it's like cancer, and you kind of have to become your own little detective to figure out what you need to eat or not eat, or how high you need to jump in order to correct your own problem, where doctors go like, we don't know anymore, so yeah, I'm in the middle of that crap. um well, see, Jason, see, this is the thing. Jason, for example, says, yeah, they absolutely stole Rivian design. But like I said, it's not so much about the design, Jason. It's just the way, like they essentially, it's like they've never seen any other electric vehicle, and the only electric vehicle that was shown to them was Rivian. And they're like, can you do this? And they're like, I guess, here. And that's how they've came up with this brand. um Anthony says, we're in a final stretch of the election week. Want to make a final prediction? You know what? It is really hard right now, because if you look at the polls, they, once Kamala Harris entered the race after Democratic election, all that stuff, convention, it definitely was going her way a lot. And now things have gone the other way. And it looks like if the polls are correct, Democrats can still squeeze a victory out, but the momentum is with Trump, right? I don't know why, by the way. Some people say it's because she's been criticizing him, but the guy's been like quoting Hitler at his rallies, right? And calling a bunch of Americans, garbage, right? So, and then Trump, and then Biden did the same thing, right? But so it's hard to know how, like, it's actually very similar to the 2016 election, right? Like, the numbers are still on Harris's side, but the momentum is on Donald Trump's side. But I think there is a couple of things to consider, right? Remember how the polls were skewed in Donald Trump, I'm sorry, in Hillary Clinton's favor, because people were just um, embarrassed to tell the pollsters that they're voting for Trump, and then they just said, oh yeah, no, Hillary Clinton, and then they voted for Trump. It seems like something like this might be going on in the other direction. So, for example, some women, when they take those surveys, when there's a call, right, and their husband's sitting next to them, and the husband is a Trump supporter, a woman might say, yeah, no, I'm voting for Trump. But when they actually show up in the booths and they're like, listen, I love my husband, but this whole abortion thing is bullshit. Is I want my women's rights back, and they vote for Kamala Harris, or not vote at all for Trump. So that might happen. And also, Democrats do have something going for them, is a turnout, right? When the bigger the turnout, usually the better Democrats do. And it seems like the turnout is in their favor so far, with absentee ballots. Like, I voted absentee. So it is definitely a close race with some things that you just cannot predict. But I think that if Trump wins, there will be a lot of people looking to move out of America, like, for real. And my course would be perfect for them, because it really do break down as like, for example, if even I moved to Thailand, I moved out of America because of, I want to find a wife, and I don't think American women is it anymore, like all of them. And I was right. I can definitely tell you that. But you know, dating here is got its own problems, right? Like, I'm not married yet still. And but I've now realized that even if I, let's say, was already happily married in America, I would have probably still moved to Thailand. Um, just basic shit here is so much better. Like, I already named healthcare, but the fact that I don't need to carry my gun anymore with me because the crime is high and the employment of law enforcement is low. People say what they want here, by the way. There's nobody's afraid that someone's going to tape them and they're going to lose their job. Um, there's no extremes here. You know what I mean? Everyone's respectful. That's actually been a problem, especially living in California. Just people just not respectful to their neighbors anymore. I think people, if they decide to move out of America because of Trump, and there is some real concerns with that. Like, I gotta say, like, I'm from Russia, and my grandfather was jailed for essentially being a Jewish writer and an educated person by a man who's now Trump sounds almost like him. The only thing is that I would say to people who are afraid that Trump will become a dictator, which I believe he will try to, but I mean, he's kind of honest about it. But I think when you look at successful dictators, they start young, right? Putin, Fidel Castro for sure, Yasser Arafat, like all of these dictators, they kind of come to power legally, right? Putin did, Hitler did, Saddam Hussein, I believe, did as well, and then they just chop away at the system, right? And they like they make the system work for them, and they jail the opposition. I mean, by the way, there is no flavors in the recipe of being a dictator. It's kind of like mashed potatoes. You know what I mean? Buy a bunch of potatoes, boil them, and smash them like this, and add some butter. Boom, mashed potatoes, right? Same thing with the dictatorship. Is there's the recipe is the same, right? And the problem with Trump becoming a dictator is that even if he does try to, and I believe he totally will try to execute it, he's just too old. He's just not going to live for that long. It does take a minute to become a dictator legally, right? Unless like you overthrow government. And I do think that America still have enough sort of guardrails to slow him down enough. Like, for example, like I don't think military is going to come to his side that easily. Like, obviously, all three branches of government, like Supreme Court is already in his, but like military, they probably be like, nobody, no, we're not on your side, at least immediately. So that's what I would tell to people who are afraid that, if Trump wins, that, at the same time, America does not value education. Like being a smart person, it's interesting. I just went to Cambodia. And in Cambodia, it's a very poor country, and everybody knows who's educated. By the way, anybody here knows why Cambodia is a poor country and they have nothing going on for them? Even though, like, I love my time in Cambodia, I would like to go back. Let me know in the comment section, but in a live chat here. But the problem is that when they had a dictator, he essentially killed anybody who was even looked smart. Like if you wore glasses in Cambodia, like they would kill you. And so they basically killed all the smart people who even looked smart. And they ended up with a country of idiots who are now trying to find their way and educate themselves and everything. And that's the problem of Cambodia. And they totally admit to it. Like you'll go there, you will see a Holocaust museum essentially of that massacre. America did that without the massacre, right? We essentially completely castrated the the education system, and then it became popular to think and really believe that dumb people know more than the smart people, that the college degree is not worth anything, right? Yeah, I mean, maybe your marketing degree is not worth anything, but your physics degree definitely makes you much smarter than everybody else in terms of physics. Even on this channel, like I was one of the first EV adopters, right? This has been my job for 8 years now. I've traveled the world. I've talked to a ridiculous number of EV owners. I've talked to CEOs of companies, including the CEO of Scout Motors, Scott Keogh. I've visited the factories. I've talked to people who design these cars. I've talked to people who worked in factories of these cars. I went to China. I went to all kinds of countries. I've educated myself, and every day I talk to other journalists. I talk to other people and designers, and every day I educated myself. But people absolutely in their comments can say, Alex, you're stupid. You don't know what you're talking about. And then they leave. And they genuinely do believe that after watching a few YouTube videos that they watched today or over the last couple of weeks, that they're already qualified more than someone like me who's dedicated his like a decade of his life to this. Or people during COVID, like who thought, oh, I know better than my doctor about COVID, about an infectious disease. Now, don't get me wrong, doctors got a lot of things wrong during COVID, but at the end of the day, this kind of allowed people to say, you know what? I'm smarter than the doctor. Yeah. Well, fuck you if you think that. And this is how this country is essentially castrated themselves. And a lot of smart people are either leaving on their own, or nobody wants to listen to them anymore. So that's the problem with America. And so then I ask you, why people complain that Donald Trump becomes a president? Oh, he is so rude and uneducated and a racist, and he wants is selfish, and he just wants. How is this different from an average American? I mean, you want the president to represent the country. Well, why is Donald Trump not it? To me, he's actually quite a typical American. you know so until America changes for the better, until people start appreciating education, until start people once again respect the experience and education, the country does not deserve better leader. So I'm sorry, but like, live with it. So I listen, I don't know who's going to win. I think it's silly to predict who's going to win. um if I had to, you know like, I think Harris is probably going to squeeze it out, but then I'm afraid to like think what's going to happen, right? Because he already told you he's going to do the same thing as last time, right? He's going to completely um, claim that none of this happened and it was a fraud, and he has a lot of people already um, in place to essentially overturn the election legally. So this is how dictators work, right? Hitler became, Putin became a very much a legal dictator. They changed the constitution. They changed a lot of laws. They changed the law that people cannot say bad thing about the president of the country, and everything was very legal, right? So same thing here. He's not going to like, if Donald Trump loses and he wants to overturn the election by basically going to some of the red states and saying, just overturn it. There's actually local laws passed that allow some of the states, um, legislative bodies to legally overturn an election. So I can see Kamala Harris winning an election, and then I see Donald Trump legally overturning it. And then what's going to happen after that? Man, I know it's always been like that. The Republicans have the guns, but now a lot of Democrats have the guns. A lot of them, as a matter of fact, because of what's been happening last few years, the biggest group of new gun owners are Democrats, and independents. Like, I bought my gun only 3 years ago for the first time. I don't even like guns, and I carried the damn thing with me all the time. So, you know, well, we're gonna find out very soon. There's less than 10 days left, right? So I'm a little scared, and I don't even live there anymore, right? Like, but I'm a little scared, to be honest with you. But I also want this to be over. I just whatever happens. All right, maybe talk a little bit back about the electric cars a little bit. The biggest problem in the United States with electric cars is the big manufacturers not wanting to really switch over and never planned and way behind Tesla and even further behind Chinese. Well, yeah, but I mean, what incentives do they really have, right? Except for keeping up with competition like Tesla. Do you really think that they're sitting there counting billions and billions of dollars of profits, thinking like, how can we make the air cleaner and whales happier? They don't give a fuck about that. So that's how. I think the answer is pretty clear, right? Rob says Vegas is bidding 63-35 to Trump. Well, can you bring up the number? I know it's hard to research sometimes, but Rob, if you don't mind, can you find the number? What were the Vegas odds for Hillary Clinton a week out from the election? I bet it was even more than this. So, and 63-35 is actually, I don't know. Interesting. In Republic of Panama, I know a great girl who lives there. I dated her in America, and then she went back to Panama. I'm still in touch with her. Would love to visit the country. Afro-Latina. Where I live, we can purchase a nice SUVs, fully electric, for $35,000. But can you tell us what they are? I'm kind of curious. Rob says, yes, being a Californian, I feel your pain. Well, do you really? So like my parents were complaining about how they don't want a Democrat to be in power. And I said, Mom, California is as democratic as it's going to get. Your son, who is independent and was pretty liberal throughout most of his life, left California, uh, like because I fucking hate the way that goddamn state is run. I can't live there anymore. This was before I decided to move outside of America, right? Uh, I said I hated California enough to leave. I moved my company, my corporation out of California, and took all of my interest out, right? I even unregistered to vote. I actually had to register to vote in Texas to vote here because that's my last residence. So I said, Mom, if you hate California so much, leave. Why are you still there? You're a rich lady with properties and stock and all of other stuff, leave. Just don't forget who's providing your free healthcare, by the way. But still, yeah. So if you don't like the state of California, leave like I did. That's why we have 50 states. You know what I mean? Um, like I do have to say that like I like Texas better. And of course, like for example, I hated Austin, that fucking shithole. But I loved Houston. Like to me, it was very purple, right? And people didn't talk about politics. It still had some Southern hospitality and respect, and you know what I mean. Like you can talk to a definite Trump supporter, and I probably look more like a Biden supporter. And the guy would still talk to me like a normal person. He would not be like, this Democrat probably, right? He would be wrong, but still, like everybody got along. I didn't see any Biden bumper stickers. I didn't see any Trump bumper sticker. So I really liked living there. But one thing did bother me is that abortions became illegal. And I'm a single guy who likes women. And and I don't want to have kids, especially with random girls. So that's a problem. That was a problem for me. Like, for example, I probably wouldn't live in a state where abortion is illegal. So it would have to be something like Nevada, I think. I like living in Las Vegas, but like it's a purple state. Do you think if the government stops doing EV tax credit, will EV sales slow down? Well, don't forget, the tax credit is not just to promote electric cars. It's also bring jobs to America because the government sees that electric cars is the future. I think you have to be an idiot not to, right? So they're saying, oh, well, we don't want Chinese and Germans and Europeans and others to once again dominate us. So if they want to sell cars here and get our American tax credits, you have to bring your factories, your technology to America, give a bunch of Americans jobs, have those Americans pay taxes, have the company pay taxes in many different ways, right? Property taxes, import taxes, sales taxes, employer taxes. Let them do all of that. Then you can have our EV tax credit. But the bill is really about, and by the way, if Democrats were any smart, they would call it America First bill, right? Like what Trump essentially came up with, right? Because it really is. It's bringing a lot of jobs back. So I think that's a lot of that bill is about that. And then, but electric car adoption does depend, not fully but partially, on still those credits. It doesn't make as much of a difference when you're buying something for 70,000, but when you're buying something for 30,000, 35, 40,000, oh, that makes a big difference. Absolutely. So that would be, by the way, if Trump wins, he will not be able to undo it. So they would have to. So Trump has to win, and Republicans would have to take both houses, right? And then they would have to, and then they would have to take up and make that law. And remember when they said they will overturn Obamacare, and they were in power in all three branches, and they didn't? I bet the same thing is going to happen there. So I wouldn't worry about it, honestly. Trump doesn't care about electric cars one way or another. You know what I mean? He just doesn't. Oh, Panama is amazing. Been there twice, saw a bunch of chargers, but not EVs. I'd like to go there. Probably, just to visit the girl. It was interesting fling. I met her in Texas, in Houston. She did not speak any English because she's Afro Latino who was basically just living there as a nanny to make some money for her family in Panama and then go back. So she didn't. I mean, and plus, she only was there for a few months before I met her, and we both knew that our relationship would only last for 3 months, right? Because I was leaving for Thailand, she was going back to Panama. Uh, but we made the best out of it. And I got to tell you, like, she was one of the best girls I've dated ever. Um, you're probably asking, like, well, why don't you just go there and bring her back to Thailand? And I thought about it, but we just weren't 100% compatible. Like, I hate to say that bullshit phrase, but just generally speaking, she was such an amazing human being, and I still in touch with her. We talk once in a while, and if I was to ever to go to Panama, which is now further than ever, right, I would definitely would love to visit her and her family. um what about gender studies degree? Yeah, fuck that degree. I mean, what the fuck does that even mean? you know what about it? It's a useless nothing burger. Should never be a degree. I mean, not everything needs to have a degree. Um, Unfortunately, citizens are afraid of electric vehicles. Plus, in the city, most people do not have a place to charge while at home. So, I don't know if they're afraid of electric vehicles. I think they're afraid of change and things that they need to do. But if you don't live in your own house or a place that has a dedicated charger or can be installed relatively affordably, you're probably not going to want an electric car. And it's very unfortunate. I've made videos about it, and I really don't understand how none of these car companies, electric car companies, are somehow bonded together and have created like an infrastructure, or at least lobbied for a law that would require apartment complexes or at least new buildings to install chargers. And I don't even understand how just basic capitalism didn't play a role here, because it's like, you install an electric car charger, you can charge more rent. You're going to make that money back within like 2 years. And on top of that, you're going to get a better tenant, because, you know, a Tesla owner is probably not going to miss out on rent, very, very often. So I just don't understand how this did not work out from the manufacturer perspective, from the government perspective, or from the consumer perspective. Like, it's such a huge failure. And honestly, if you ask me if there's one thing that's slowing the revolution, the electric car revolution and adoption down, it is the lack of residential level 2 overnight charging, dedicated charging. It's that simple. You're saying Trump is going to do this, but this stuff you're saying is what the Democrats invited, invented, you mean, and is already doing about speed. I don't understand. I don't. Can you please rephrase? I'm happy to answer, but I don't understand. No, I'm describing with Trump wins. I genuinely believe that in Trump wins, he will try to seize power to himself, and he will try to go after his opponents. Um, so yeah, listen, and there's something to be said about the Biden administration going after Trump, but don't forget, there's a difference. Uh, the and these are unwritten rules. The Department of Justice is independent and supposed to be independent. So Biden has never interfered with the Department of Justice, whether the charges were brought up against Trump or his own son, right? But Trump was very clear that he would go after the Justice Department. Also, don't forget that a lot of these lawsuits that are going after Trump are state lawsuits, and the president has very little sort of power over states, as you probably know. So, yeah, listen, I truly believe is going to happen. If Trump wins, he's going to try to become Putin or, Hitler, because Hitler wasn't like a brutal dictator up until like many years into his. As a matter of fact, he actually brought Germany to quite successful economy. Just like Putin, for example, if you go to Russia, I mean, don't, but people there have their stuff. Their stomachs are full. The crime is low. I mean, now their sons are dying in the war, but before that, like before he took it too far, for a regular person who doesn't care about democracy or freedom, it was a good place to live, right? So and listen, let's be honest. As a white straight man, I will selfishly benefit from Trump's presidency way more than I benefit from Kamala Harris' presidency. The three most important or four most important things to me are more aligned with the conservative views rather than liberal views, even though I am an independent. So, so yeah. And if Kamala Harris wins, she's not going to try to become a dictator. She's just not. It's not, as a matter of fact, I think anybody but Trump would be a quite normal president. So I really wish that, now don't get me wrong, I think Kamala is a horrible choice for the Democrats over Biden. Meaning it was a good choice for them to replace Biden because he wasn't going to win at all. But I think Kamala was one of the worst and choices. And if they lose, there's going to be that stupid move. I really wish that both Democrats and Republicans would have given me and people like me, independents, better choices, right? Because I'm not going to automatically, like if I was a Republican, I would automatically vote for a Republican candidate, right? If I'm a Democrat, say, no, I just, like I would have loved people who are more closer to the center, who are not polarized, who actually have a plan, like I'm tired of both sides saying my plan is to do the opposite of what that guy is going to do, or that gal is going to do. So it's yeah, but I listen, in my mind, I think both sides are destroying the country in two very different ways. So the question is which one you don't mind. If Kamala wins, World War III is a guarantee. No, it's not. And by the way, what does the World War III actually looks like to you? You understand that World War III is a nuclear war, right? So why would it be guaranteed? Okay, I mean, listen. I'm willing to entertain an idea, but tell me, what do you mean and why? Like, let's logically think about it. Don't get me wrong. I think the wars that are going on right now, right, Middle East and Ukraine, are not being handled very well by Biden administration. I mean, they're handled well, but they're just being handled. They're not being resolved. Neither will Trump. Did he do it the last time? Well, he did try to do it last time, but again, the system still worked in a certain way where he couldn't. Now the system has been changed, right? And so this time around, you can actually legally overturn the election. Don't get me wrong. Democrats tried to do it a little bit, right, by trying to flip the electoral, what are they called? Electoral votes, right? So people who are actually electorals. So, but at the end of the day, listen, like I said, I'm independent. I think both of these candidates are complete shit. But again, I think, yes, I agree. If Kamala becomes president, we're going to be more in a communist society. If Trump becomes the president, we're going to be more in the dictatorship society. I don't like either. So, pick. Can you describe a view that could be considered independent? Well, my views are independent. So, for example, my views I pretty much never align on anything 100% with one side or another. So, for example, let's take guns, right? So I'm not aligned with Democrats who basically don't think people should carry guns. Now, I would be willing to entertain their thought if they weren't defunding the police at the same time. So I'm not cool with having less police around and then letting a bunch of criminals during COVID out of prisons and jails because we don't want them to get the sniffles, and then saying, but you, Alex, cannot defend yourself. You cannot carry a weapon, even if you go and get a background check, get yourself trained, get yourself licensed, get your, gun registered and all that stuff. You cannot carry the gun. Even the Constitution says you can. So I'm not cool with that. But I'm also not cool with basically people like in Texas, for example, just going and buying a gun and not knowing how to safely operate it. A lot of people think that if they have guns, they can get into more shit and be more rude and confrontational, where when you get the gun training, it's the other way around. When you do have a firearm on you, you actually always want to de-escalate the situation and avoid any type of confrontation. So many times I backed out of arguments and not honked at people. Once I got my gun, I became much less aggressive person. So a lot of people don't understand that. So I absolutely believe if you are buying a gun, you need to be licensed. You need to be registered. You need to take the training. And this is where Republicans will absolutely hate me, just like Democrats hate me from the other side, is that you need to go through a psych eval. I did it voluntarily because it was not required for my license out of California or out of Utah. And I'm licensed in 30 different states at the time when I was living in America. But I absolutely believe that people need to get a nod from a therapist saying, I don't think you're ever going to go crazy where you're going to whip out your gun and shoot somebody because you got into a jealous rage or because you had a confrontation with another Prius driver. You know what I mean? So like, that's a good example. I am pro-gun, but I'm also pro-gun control, right? So that's a good sort of example of being an independent. And by the way, when I listen to Democrats and Republicans about arguments on either side, they make no sense. They're not based on data. When Democrats give me data about like, oh, look how many gun deaths are in America, I'm like, wait a second, but you mixed a lot of suicide deaths in there. These are not violent deaths. This is suicide deaths. So take the gun away. Well, you'll do the pills or throw yourself off the bridge. That's bullshit, right? But when Republicans argue their side, they're like, whoa. It's not guns that are killing people. It's the people getting, and it's like, okay, so I don't subscribe to either one of the sides' backup arguments. So, and because I have an independent brain. Does that make sense? Zero compromise on the Second Amendment, zero. Now, the real JC, I'm willing to bet a lot of money that you would not, without looking it up, quote a Second Amendment to me right now. Okay? Because all of these people, Second Amendment. First of all, you don't know what it says. Now, if you read what a Second Amendment says, you would not understand a fucking word that it says, because Second Amendment is like, if you read it, you're like, did a drunk 5-year-old wrote this? This makes no sense. The only reason you support the Second Amendment is not because you read it and understood it. You did not. I guarantee you that. It makes no sense right now in this day and age. What you are supporting when you say you're supporting a Second Amendment is the Supreme Court's interpretation of the Second Amendment. Okay, so also don't forget that it's kind of silly to cherish a law that was, passed 200 years ago when things were very different. There's this comedian that talks about how silly this whole thing, the concept of trying to defend yourselves from the government that's got nukes and drones. Yeah, you could do this 200 years ago, but founding fathers did not think, and when the Second Amendment was passed, they did not think that there would be nuclear weapons and little drones that can fly into your face and fucking blow you up, right? They just didn't think of that. So you kind of have to evolve with times. But the Second Amendment, again, I dare you to go and read it right now and explain it to me. You fucking won't be able to. You won't. Oh, back to electric cars. Sure, we can talk about electric cars. Earlier, you asked me what was for sale for $35,000 in Republic of Panama. Oh, Dongfeng Friday EV. Wow, very cool. I actually have not seen them here, so kudos. Very very nice. Um, Universal constitutional carry, but with a push for training, not mandatory training. Well, then you get a bunch of idiots running around not knowing how to use guns, right? Not understanding how to de-escalate situations, not carrying them correctly, and even if they do have to use the gun to defend themselves, they're still going to shoot a bunch of bystanders. I mean, they even teach you in training how to always understand that, hey, are you even in a position to use your weapon right now? So, for example, if you're in a crowded festival, right? Normally, you wouldn't bring a gun there anyway, but like in Texas, I guess you would. You know, you cannot use your gun even to defend yourself. You're going to kill a bunch of innocent people. I mean, you shouldn't use your gun. Complete lack of understanding what the escalation is. So, yelling this whole thing, yeah, everybody should have a gun. I'm like, I think that's stupid. I think it's just going to lead to way more violence and gun deaths than it needs to be. And plus, what's wrong with training? Like, honestly, what the fuck is wrong with saying, hey, I'm going to own a killing machine? Like, literally, a thing invented to kill. Like, that's the only reason, right? But why would I need a training on how to use this safely, on when to use it? And that other people might also have guns, so I probably should understand that and de-escalate situations so we don't have shootouts every day. Like what is wrong with that? you know I just don't get it. I just really don't get it. Okay, there is no way to guarantee that people won't be discriminated against if a therapist has to examine you before you get a gun. Why would you be discriminated by a therapist? I mean, I don't get it. Like, can you explain to me, like, what would be a situation where you walked into a therapist office and say, hey, listen, let me tell you about, my mental state, you'll be asked questions and then why I did it? Because I don't ever want to be in a situation where I get, let's say, so angry that I whip out my gun and start shooting. You know what I mean? I want to make sure that someone else who is a professional and understands me better than me, right? Because that's their job, that I won't ever do that. And I went to my therapist because I already was in therapy. So I love therapy, by the way. And I said, hey, listen, I'm thinking about buying a gun. I just want to ask you, do you think that I will ever be irresponsible with my gun? You know? And I said, no, by the way, here's another thing. People have guns. And like, for example, I'm a single guy, right? So I didn't need to lock up my gun when somebody like in my house, right? Like, because I don't have kids, I live by myself. But when you invite a girl over, right? So you go out with a gun, you meet a girl, you bring her home. What do you do with your gun? A lot of people just have it laying down and say, oh, she's insane, or I've known her for a long time. She's not going to shoot me. Yes. But what if she is in a state of mind where she wants to commit, you know, self-harm, and you essentially can provide, and she's like, it's an easy access now, right? I was actually afraid of that. I made sure that I hid my gun when I brought somebody in, not because I was afraid of them shooting me. I was afraid of them hurting themselves and just seeing an opportunity of a gun laying around. So there's just so many things that people don't think about. uh I wish I could get on live with you. This is a subject that I'm extremely formal and passionate about. I am as well, by the way. I really enjoy being a gun owner. And honestly, maybe we can do it some other time. I mean, it's an electric car channel, but my voice is ending, and this is a long discussion. But at the end of the day, here's the thing, man. When you're waving the Second Amendment flag, we're probably not going to agree on much. Because to me, Second Amendment means nothing if you read it, right? Um, you can only go by interpretation of the Supreme Court. And again, it, I, 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 I want what brings less danger to people, right? That's what I want. And just like with every law, they are interpreted in a frame of modern society. And so, like I said, I believe that yes, everybody should carry a gun except for people who shouldn't carry a gun. But I was giving you an example of what an independent opinion on a hot topic is. You know, the argument about guns is never going to end. Like you, Alex, I'm licensed in 40 plus states. Well, it's more states than I did because I had California and Utah license, and that I think is good, like for 25 states, maybe 30. I know you will agree that this country would do a civil war before they give up their guns. Yeah, and listen, I would not want to give up my guns if I lived in America. But I also absolutely would have agreed, and I did agree to background checks, right? Registering my gun, doing training every year or every 2 years, doing psych evals and all of that stuff. I wanted to be a responsible gun owner. I don't want people to give up their guns, though. I want everybody who should have a gun or have a gun. I always told my friends, I was like, listen, if you have a family and you live in a house, you know you need to have a gun. You need to have a gun. You don't have to carry it with you all the time like I did, but you need to have a gun. Your argument about the Second Amendment being outdated is invalid because okay, because if that was true, then the same thing can be said about the First Amendment, so we wouldn't be on this platform. Actually, okay, what does have to be on this platform? This platform has nothing to do with the First Amendment. I hope you realize that. And we do have an interpretation of the First Amendment now. You cannot say anything you want in America. You do understand that, right? If you're going to make a threat about trying to go after Trump, or what the other happened to him a couple of times, or if you literally scream a fire in a crowded theater that causes panic and people trip over each other and kill, you will be arrested and tried, and you will be convicted. You understand that, right? We've evolved. We've limited the freedoms that the amendments have given to us. So. And I don't even understand your comment about the platform. Back in Utah, yeah, my license was out of Utah as well. It's still valid. I have still a valid Utah concealed carry permit. When I was 14 years old, I had to take hunter safety before you get a hunting permit. Yeah, of course. You have to have license for a lot of shit that you need to do when you're operating stuff that's hard to operate. I didn't say that there shouldn't be training. I said that it shouldn't be mandatory before you get a gun. Well, I'm saying it should be. And I just giving you a bunch of reasons why. Like simple reasons is majority of the people or a good number of people think that, and even I was like, oh, I have a gun. I don't have to back down from assholes anymore, right? And when I took a course, they're like, no, you need to back down from an assholes more than ever. Do not honk at people anymore. Do not get into any confrontations, right? Don't especially get into any confrontations that you wouldn't have if you didn't have a gun. So no, the training should be mandatory. You should all, and by the way, safety training where they just tell you how to use a gun, but also actually training so that you can actually not miss the person you're trying to shoot in self-defense. There's tons of times when someone's trying to defend themselves and shoot a bunch of innocent people. I'm against that. Why wouldn't you be? So what I'm saying is that you, I'm assuming Republican, will never accept my point of view, and Democrats would neither. Both of the sides think I'm crazy. They would never go with what I think. And that's what makes me an independent, because what you're telling me is just basically your typical Republican talking points. Second Amendment. I guarantee you, man, that you are very passionate about it. There's no chance you would have quoted the Second Amendment to me on the spot. Be honest. Tell me. Can you quote the Second Amendment to me without looking it up? You can't. Dave King said it should be locked up if you ever leave it in your home. No, well, first of all, when I left my home, I took my gun with me. But the rare occasions that I didn't, well, first of all, I did have it in a place where it wasn't easy to find, but my house had cameras and security and enforced doors. So, you know, locking the gun up, it's already locked up in my house. That's kind of hard to get into, where you're being monitored by cameras. You definitely know that you're being monitored by cameras, and you have to break in. So what's the difference between breaking into my house and breaking into the gun safe, for example? um you know uh, Okay. Yeah. No, listen, I don't mind talking. It's just because my voice is going to end, and it's kind of already ending. And I don't know if people want to hear the gun debate, So, and like I said, honestly, like, I'm opening a new channel, and it's going to be about men's rights and modern dating. And I think I only want to debate about that. And I don't mind debating about electric cars on this channel. But, you know, because I do think that I serve some purpose in both of those industries, the electric car industry and hopefully men's rights industry and men's dating. I can help people. But I see an important comment. I'm going to get to it in a second. But us talking about it, it doesn't do any good, right? It just doesn't. Because for me, for example, I I'm not going to be convinced, because I've already researched this a lot, and you're probably not going to change my mind. I'm probably not going to change your mind. So, you know, Rob says Arizona is reciprocal to Utah, so you'd have way more states. Yeah. So I got the Utah permit because I partially lived in Las Vegas, and California permit wasn't recognized in Nevada. By the way, I timed my arrival to California. The day when I left California was the day my gun permit expired, and at that time it was before the Supreme Court decision, or right after, where California didn't have that yet. Where I could not get a gun permit in the new county where I was living, which was extremely liberal. And before that, I was in a conservative Sacramento County. Let's go back to the EVs. Okay. Which one would you buy? Cybertruck, Hummer EV, or Rivian R1S? Super easy question. Absolutely Hummer EV. That's not even a competition. I mean, just because of its entertainment system, just because of the way it looks, just because of its acceleration and range. They're kind of similar between each other, but to me, the design of the interior, like I said, the graphics interface has been designed by a gaming company, one of the most famous gaming companies. Cybertruck and Rivian do not have something that's absolutely essential to me, which is on Android Auto. Would never buy a car without it. I mean, I would also not buy a Tesla because of the service. So yeah, Hummer EV, hands down, just such a better freaking truck. But I'm not a truck guy who's going to haul stuff and do construction. So keep that in mind. This platform is platform that we're utilizing our First Amendment rights on. What are you saying? You're saying right now on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, we have First Amendment rights? This is why I don't want to have a debate, actually, is because that is absolutely incorrect. And if this is what you're saying, that means you don't understand the basics of the First and Second Amendments. Well, definitely First Amendments, which is quite simple. First Amendment is for public places only. It's not for private spaces. I cannot come to your house and call your wife a whore. You'll kick me right out of your house, right? Even if you invited me, and you'll be like, get the fuck out, right? And what if I'm going to say, well, really? What about the First Amendment? First Amendment doesn't work on private property. We are on private property right now. YouTube. All right, guys. I know I've created the monster here. Let's Alex, what was the place in California you mentioned last week that you would go back to? Oh, Santa Cruz, California, my most favorite place on earth. I absolutely loved going there every week when I lived in the Bay Area. I do like Avila Beach as well. I remember mentioned that, but Santa Cruz, California, my goodness. Santa Cruz and Capitola Beach next door. I kind of count them as one, and then you can go further even to Carmel and Monterey and other little paradises there. But Santa Cruz is where I used to go. Absolutely love that place. Like I said, I don't miss much about um, America, but that one place I miss. Like next year, I might visit, which I'm gonna fucking hate, but I might visit, and I'll definitely one of my destinations would be Santa Cruz, California. This is one of the best comments today. Thank you for noticing, Timothy. Great haircut. Let me tell you about this great haircut. As you probably noticed in the last, ever I started the channel, but 15 years, I had a kind of a hip, kind of a younger guy haircut, which was given to me by my 22-year-old or 19-year-old hairstylist when I owned a hair salon back in California. And Rob grew up in Santa Cruz, California. No matter we vibe so well, Rob. I love that place. You guys are going to get me all nostalgic, and it was fine. However, I started to lose hair, and as you guys probably know, I had hair transplants, and as a matter of fact, the company who did it, crap, it escapes my mind. They became the sponsors of the channel, and I did my procedure. But then I still have a hair up front here. It's pretty good. Of course, under the harsh light, it's. But I started to bald on top. You can't really see it, but I don't know. You should be able to see it. And I was starting to think about getting another hair transplant, and it's not cheap. Even here, still 10,000 American dollars. And this year, I have lost a lot of hair there. And I was like, do I really want to go through this? And then I was talking to my friend about this, and he's also been thinking about it. And I was like, dude, you actually look like you have more hair now than your pictures 10 years ago because you have a different hairstyle. You just have to modify your hairstyle and you'll still not look like you're balding. And I was like, wait a second, why don't I take my own advice? So I researched the hairstyle for men who are balding, and essentially it came up with slick back hairstyle. Now, essentially is when you're growing your hair long and you can see from the side, right? So it's grow long and go back. Now, I think it looks pretty cool. It looks pretty cool for front. I feel like I look the same. It still needs to grow for another 3 to 6 months for it to make it work. But essentially what's going to happen, all this hair is going to cover up my bald spot right here, and I won't even need hair transplant. Okay. So yes, thank you. And I've been getting compliments from the girls that I'm seeing that they like it. And I love it. From the side, well, my microphone's here. So from this side, it looks really good. I really love it. From the front, I still need to slick it back a little bit better, shape it. But yeah, absolutely love it. So yeah, man, my voice is really ending. Hold on, let me keep pumping this. Ugh, disgusting. The real JC. Okay, so okay, so I do like having that debate, but I really do think we kind of went way too far in terms of people do want us to get back to something else. But I think I made my case honestly, and I'm not trying to convince you. You know what I mean? And listen, you might be able to quote the Second Amendment, but you still won't be able to explain it. So anyway, I'm sorry I started the conversation, though I do enjoy talking about it, but it's just there's no point. Hummer EV, by the way. Wait, what was in the response? Oh, yeah, that's your choice. Okay, all right. Oh, yes. Too bad in the United States they don't see some of the things that are available in China at this time when it comes to EVs. Even here in Thailand, we have a lot of amazing electric cars. There's an app here where you can actually order most places in Bangkok that I go to an electric vehicle. So almost every day I ride an electric vehicle, and yeah, it's gonna kill everybody else if they come to other countries. Sebastian says Hummer makes no sense. Why would you drive around in a tank if one cares about efficiency and sustainability? I don't care about efficiency and sustainability. What's wrong? Like if the electricity comes from green energy. If I was in America, I mean, I believe I already lived in the cities in America, like Sacramento, where you just either pay extra or they've just completely switched to green sources anyway. What do you care how big and inefficient my battery is? But listen, we're talking about as consumers, right? I think I was asked which one would be the best product, and Hummer is by far the best product. Um, Visit the original Avila in Spain. So Avila Beach is named after the actual city. Okay, I've been to um, two places in Spain, Madrid, and then on a separate trip, Marbella. Uh, Madrid was the Nissan trip. Marbella was Audi trip. So yeah. All right. Rob grew up in Santa Cruz. I love it. I still the best fucking ribs in the world I've ever had are sold in Santa Cruz, California. Um, what is my opinion on the ID3 Pro? Well, why particularly Pro versus like the regular ID3? I mean, I'm surprised it has not taken off as much as I thought it would. Um, yeah, I don't know what it is. Um, could be the pricing. It's probably the pricing because it's not a bad car once the software got fixed, right? So, but I think it's very much an European car that should have done well in Europe, but so should have Renault Zoe, right? And it didn't. That's Rob Bosley. That's who did my hair transplants. I love hair transplants. I'm going to do one more. The real JC. By the way, I saw your comments, but like I said, I wish we could talk more about it, but it sounds like people don't care as much as we do. My apologies to everybody for switching the topic for a bit. That's okay. I'm at fault. I'm at fault. However, I want to point out a few things out since I was using an example. Yeah, and they all appeared here. You know, like I said, I have my own rebuttals to them, but there are more people that are watching. Rob says, "Driver Hummer, then talk to me." Well, why do I have to drive a Hummer to pick it out of the lineup of three, choices that were given to me? But like I said, I would not buy a car without an Android Auto, period. So that just leaves Hummer EV out of that lineup. That's even, acceptable for me. Um, the real JC says, last time I would definitely be able to interpret it. Okay. Like I said, we're going to have to agree to disagree. But on the EV topic, I am a Lucid fan. I'm a Lucid fan as well. They have one of the shittiest people working for their PR department, but that has nothing to do with the product. I love their CEO. He's been on this channel many times. Lucid, let's face it, they have the best stats pretty much in all the electric car industry. Best range, best charging time, best 0 to 60, best quarter mile, essentially, right? So, and the car looks pretty decent, and I love the interior. So, absolutely agree with you. Yvonne says, had Scout not been shut down, the plans on a drawing board for 1980s versions would have had vertical mounted rectangular headlines, but round or square doesn't spoil it for me. The price will. Okay. Yeah, listen, I understand they might have had different plans, but at the end of the day, the way we remember, everybody, at least the enthusiasts remember it, is the damn round lights. I mean, by the way, why not put the damn? I think the round lights would have made it look better, like just flat out. Sebastian said, Marbella, I spent my honeymoon. My kid was born in Madrid. Yeah, I honestly, there are very few countries or places I hated in my life when I visited, right? So Everything else, I found charm one way or another. But Marbella was amazing. Madrid was great, very kind of typical European city. I mean, honestly, the cities that I've hated, very few. I mean, in America, it's definitely um, San Francisco and Austin. Abroad, it's Delhi City, Tokyo, and was another shithole I visited. Oh, Pattaya, Thailand, about 2 hours away from here. So, all right. Oh, okay. I guess Rob was talking to someone, and you guys are arguing about the Hummer EV. I kind of feel like arguing about cars is kind of like arguing about women. Like I think the most beautiful women in the world, generally speaking, are black women. But I'm sure some people don't find black women attractive at all, right? So, and then like women that a lot of guys find attractive, like blondes, with big boobs. I have zero attraction to. So it's kind of like that, right? Like it's your eyes. You can't really, Uh-oh, I knew this was going to happen. Well, let me get to that question in a second. Why limit yourself to Android Auto if you can have Android Automotive OS? Yes, good point, but that's only Volvo and Polestar right now. So Rivian doesn't have it, and Cybertruck doesn't have the Android Automotive OS. Otherwise, hell yeah. Um, The real JC says, I agree with everything that you said about Lucid. See, we'd get along just fine, bro. We don't, by the way, we'll get along just fine just because we were able to have a civil conversation a second ago. We don't need to agree on everything. What two individuals ever agree on everything? You know what I mean? If we can have a good debate and be fine afterwards, that's how we're going to be friends. All right, I knew this was coming. What did you not like about Austin? Oh, fuck that fucking shithole. I mean, it's like you took the worst from California, picked out electric cars, and dumped it in the middle of another state. Um, uh, People are just as fucking entitled and rude, and probably it's worse now. Um, the just audacity of bullshit. Like I'll give you. So Austin is famous for its barbecue, right? So there's a bunch of barbecue places. So I go to this one near my place where I was staying, and I come in at like 5 o'clock. I was like, I'd like some ribs. They're like, we're out of ribs. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Your place is literally advertised as the place like ribs, the best Austin ribs in town. How you run out of ribs? Is this your first fucking day in business? You know, like how do you? It's like fucking Mexican restaurant runs out of avocado. You know what I mean? It's like, do you not understand how to do inventory? Do you also not have a backup plan of saying like, okay, if we run out of ribs or we're getting close to running out of ribs, we're gonna do this. But to have an audacity for a customer to show up to a rib place and say, sorry, we're out of ribs. And then sometimes they would close, sometimes they would still open trying to sell other meats. And I was like, what the fuck? But I was like, all right, okay, fine, whatever. I come the next day. They're not open on Monday. Okay, fine. Everyone's got to have a day off. I'll come on Tuesday. Come on Tuesday, they're not open on Tuesday either. Then I remember I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to have ribs for lunch on Wednesday. I come in and they're like, oh, we don't open until 4 o'clock. I'm like, you running a business, you have a building that you pay rent for, and you're open 5 days a week, and by days I mean half days. Like you'd open essentially 2.5 full days a week, and you still fucking run out of your main products. Like, what a fuck you to the customers. And there's will be motherfuckers standing in line to get these reps. So like that's just insulting, and everything in Austin is like that. It's just insulting to a normal person, and people are just like I said. I just found people will just like in California, entitled, disrespectful, all of that stuff. So yeah, no, I anyway, there's no like you're right. Austin does have a lot of people moving from California and bringing their culture, and I don't like California culture. But like bullshit like this is like, and by the way, it is who kept these businesses in business? People who will still buy ribs from them, you know. And it's like how disrespect. Like by the way, and a plate of ribs would be like $40. Okay, like even in America that was expensive, right? So these motherfuckers would stand in line uh, at a certain particular times when this business, you know, graces us with being open, pay a lot of money, and somehow think that this is fucking normal. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't, I just don't get it. And so that's why I hated it. But like, can't tell you so many stories about businesses disrespecting customers, customers disrespecting businesses, people disrespecting each other. Yeah, it's awful, awful. I just really hated that shithole. I honestly, they only stayed there for 2 weeks because I was meeting a friend and I was hanging out a friend who lived in Austin. Otherwise, I would have just gotten the fuck out of there way, way sooner. Um, Wait a second. I saw a comment. The real JC, as a Louisiana Creole, New Orleans, I also agree with you on black women. See, we but if we didn't, it would be okay, right? By the way, you know how hard my life is, loving black women and living in Thailand. Don't get me wrong, there are beautiful Thai women here and everything, and I'm here for the women. That was my real reason. But man, I just saw, by the way, saw a black girl walking in the mall, and I come up to her, and she's American, right? And the attitude, like right away, I was like, oh fuck, I don't know why I did this. I mean, I just saw beautiful women that I is like, but the attitude was like, this is why I left America. This goddamn attitude from every single modern woman is this is why I'm starting a new channel. I really hope to start a new revolution or join the revolution of men having to stop being simps, stop being pushovers, stop idolizing women for no good reason, stop handing cash and time over to women who do not ever deserve it, or worth it. Like, I really hope I can change that. That's why I'm starting a new channel. This sounds like a you problem. Which of one my problem sounds like a me problem? All right. I thank you for the civil debate. Well, that doesn't happen very often in America, unfortunately. I should be becoming very intimately experienced with a Lucid Air within the next week, possibly within the next day or a few. Are you getting one, or are you just gonna like test drive it for a week? Okay. Oh, you're explaining. You're going to explain to me why a shitty business should be in business. Okay, they buy meats for the day. When they run out, they're out of the day. Is that all of your explanation? Because a 5-year-old can come up with a better one. I'll wait if there's something more. There's just like, that is fucking stupid. Sorry, but it is. I literally already told you why this should not work. If you buy meats for the day and you run out in the middle of the day, you should be fired. You shouldn't be running that business. I can see how you ran out 10 minutes before closing. Okay. But you should never. By the way, how is that all other businesses don't run out of their shit? And by the way, I love ribs. I've eaten ribs in all over the world. Here in Thailand, in California, my favorite rib place in Santa Cruz. Never I showed up to a rib place and they said, guess what? We're out of ribs. Like only in Austin, Texas, somehow they run their business in such a way. So there is a solution for not running out of ribs when you sell ribs. And everybody knows that except for those businesses in Austin. So that is excuse is absolutely, absolutely unacceptable. But again, listen, some people were happy to give them $40, stand in line, have no ribs when they don't know how to do inventory, and they're happy and they live there and they pay high rent. By all means, I just want to have nothing to do with it. That's all. I'm not even preaching. I just thought it was stupid. I hated that shithole. I never want to be there again. I need to come to Did you mean you need to come to Panama since you like black women? You'll find a little mix of everything here. Yeah. So the girl that I was dating from Panama, she is a Afro Latina. She didn't speak any English. We used Google Translate. That's how, I became comfortable dating women here in Thailand who don't speak English, because I do not date women who speak English, like seriously. Like casually, I don't care. But seriously, I have quite a few requirements. No tattoos, no nose rings, no kids, and yeah. So it's and now the new one, do not speak, please do not speak English. And if I meet a girl that I'm going to be serious about, and she'll be like, I should learn English since you speak English. I'm like, nah, do not. That's a deal breaker. It's like cheating. I will learn Thai. I know I'm really bad at it right now. It's really hard to learn, but I'll do it. Um, you know, uh, for this comment, this is why I love living in Thailand. People don't think that the audacity that Americans and Western people have, that everybody has to see their way and there's just no other way. I'm old enough to realize that sometimes people see things differently because of many other reasons, and they are not wrong. Like, for example, people hate Trump supporters. Okay. And I mean, they do have a case, but I also say, listen, let me tell you about some Trump voters that I know, that I understand why they voted for Trump and are going to vote for him again. You know what I mean? They have their reasons, trust me. For example, Jewish people. All my friends are voting Trump, right? Because, well, there's only one party that doesn't have an openly anti-Semitic member in Congress. So I can't blame them, you know? So here people, the culture is very different. I'm learning every day. For example, here people pick their favorite children. Like literally, one of the girls I'm dating, well, seeing casually, I guess, but she has kids, and she's like, yeah, I like my boy way more than I like my daughter. And probably if she has any inheritance, it's the boy who's going to get the inheritance, and girl's going to get nothing. And that's just how they live. When they had the divorce, I also another girl that I'm seeing, she took her favorite child, her husband took his favorite child, and that's how they live. Now, your brains are probably melting right now, right? If you're watching from a Western country, but this is normal here. They're like, yeah, So I, I, I love living here because it forces me, and I love it, to become a very tolerant person and tolerate everything, other people, unless it's like violence or whatever. Um, Dave King says, you're describing the perfect woman. Well, I have a problem because I've been in 3.5 really amazing relationships with perfect women. Um, and I don't want to not do it anymore. As a matter of fact, if I can find her here, I think I can. Um, I don't want a wife. Like, honestly, it's not worth it. If you think about it, and I guess I'm going to be practicing for my channel, is most of the women are not worth spending your time and money on. You know, like a girl who I'm going to marry, I'm going to change her life. She's going to have everything better: security, the shelter, the place to live, the transportation, the healthcare, the safety. Everything's going to be better. She's going to travel the world. I mean, her life is going to be a lot better. Um, and even when I die, I will make sure that she's taken care of for the rest of her life, since I'm dating younger women, right? Most of the time. So if I'm going to give this amazing gift to someone, they better be pretty perfect. And if not, I'll keep it to myself. I sure can spend my money on other things, so give it to other people. And I sure can hire services to, for my all kinds of needs, right? So yeah, if it's not going to be like the women I've dated before and like I've described. And by the way, I don't even think it's that much to ask. Really, is it really that much to ask to be just a good wife? I guess it is, but Andreas says there's a YouTube channel in that a man with wife drove all states, shows good and bad locations in main cities. After this, I think there is no place in the US where I want to go but total nature locations. I mean, listen, obviously, when we go to a place, it's only as good as the specific places, right? And people that we meet, um, generally you do get a sense of a culture, but so, and then, but at the same time, like, who cares why I don't like Austin? I don't like it. I don't want to go there, so I won't. If somebody likes it, if somebody likes showing up to driving 20 minutes to a place that you wanted to buy dinner at, and they say we're out of ribs because we don't know how to do inventory, and you're okay with it, okay, that's okay with me. Only 3 buildings from private people had flowers and a nice garden. Just 3 in all shown videos. I'm not sure if I understand that comment. Let's see. What did I miss in terms of comments? Okay. All right, guys. Oh my God. I've streamed for more than 2 hours. Unless there is very important question or comment, I'm going to go and heal my throat, and hopefully I don't lose my voice tomorrow. But I think I will. Let's see if this thing is going to help me. Oh, yeah. I don't know why I didn't get this one before that. All right. Let's see. The Real JC says, I can't wait until you start the other channel. I cannot wait either. I'd love to come on and chime in regards to men on simping as well as the dating thing. Good topics. Yeah. So, I don't know if I'm going to have guests or what is going to be. Right now, I'm working on an online course about why and how a Western man who's single should move to another country, how to pick that country, how to logistically make a move, understand visas and budgets, and how to get income that's going to be sustainable. So I need to do that first. And then once I start the channel in January, I will be talking about, there will be some men's rights conversations, but mainly about, what happened to modern dating and how men should put a stop to it. Because honestly, there are very few men who don't simp. I lost a friend recently who told me that, he was an alpha male and an independent, all that stuff. And then he kept telling me about how he sort of dates. And there was one day when he said, I met this girl. He's in his 50s, but he looks great. A millionaire, tall guy, no bad habits, nothing, just, no kids, right? So he's in his 50s. As you guys probably know, the guy in his 50s can date a girl in his 30s, right? And so he's like, well, this girl's 54. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, okay. And basically, if I want to meet her, she told me that I need to drive to her where she works, and then she'll go and have lunch with me during her lunch break, which is 50 minutes. I'm like, I'm sorry. So you drove total of almost an hour to meet a 54-year-old woman who wasn't going to obviously put any type of clothes or makeup just for you, just however she show up to, just so you have a privilege of meeting her and buying her lunch. Like, and I said, you're simping. Please don't do that. This is why men cannot find wives. I have to go to Thailand to find one. And he got really mad at me. And as all confident alpha males, told me to fuck off and blocked me. A friend of 1 year. So, like, people, like, men don't even understand how they simp. And when you explain it to them, they get offended. Like, for example, if you come up to a girl that you don't know at the bar and says, can I buy you a drink? I want to punch you in your fucking face. It's just one of the saddest things to do. And that's what I want to talk about, Do I accept married men to the new channel? What do you mean accept? Of course. I think a lot of men simp in their marriages, actually. Like, if you, like, another man who should be punched in the face is who says, happy wife, happy life. What a pathetic human fucking being you are. I mean, really? That's what man. I don't want to get my blood pressure up because I got to go to bed soon. But this is why I want to start my channel, is that we got to eliminate that. Because yeah, so we can talk about marriages, we can talk about how men simp, we can talk about how, like, this year I thought about this. If I think of all of the victims of domestic violence that I know this year, they are all men. They're all men, and none of them reported the domestic violence against them by their wives. Like, let's talk about that. Let's talk about those marriages where a woman throws a frying pan in your fucking face. Um, and one of them, actually, that's what happened. And what he did was he tried to constrain her so she doesn't do it again, because it's essentially an assault with deadly weapon. I'm not a lawyer, but it probably could be. And he bruised her, and because he restrained her, right? And because she's a tiny little woman. And if she would have called cops, guess who would have gone to jail for domestic violence, right? So I want to talk about all of that stuff. So absolutely, yeah. Was that for a first date? What do you mean for the first date? That's not a friend, Alex. Well, no, he was a friend. I mean, obviously, if you get offended when I try to tell you you're doing something really bad, for yourself, really, yeah, and that's why, that's fine. Sometimes it's good to lose a friend when they're not being good friends, right? Like your views of, like, go on live, a great life. I don't get it. Sorry, did I miss something else that you said? I think I'm on friends live here. Okay, you're gonna have to rephrase it because I don't really understand. Why are they never asking the woman, "Is your husband happy?" Well, there's actually viral clip when a woman is being asked if your husband happy, and she was like really offended by that. And let's face it, most men are not happy in their marriages, right? If we're being honest. I mean, for example, like, one of the reasons I think men should come, like, one of the things in my course I'm going to talk about is when you're picking a country to go to, I suggest picking a country where non-monogamy is accepted. Like here in Thailand, it's quite acceptable. Because honestly, I've never been in a monogamous relationship in my life. Because I just don't, like, I'm not going to be happy if it's just one girl. You know what I mean? I don't mind committing to one girl and having a relationship with one girl, and but that one thing is just, I can't. So most men aren't happy just because of that, I would say. But the new modern society essentially makes men into like little slaves that just have to work for their women. And that's it. That's all they're good for nowadays. So that's what my channel is going to be about. Oh, the driving 15 minutes out. Yes, that was a first date. That was a first date. Listen, if she was a 25-year-old supermodel, I would be like, okay, all right. You know what I mean? Like, you're still simping. But as long as you stop simping at some point, and this is just a way to get her interested because the competition is huge, okay. Still not happy with it, right? But we're talking about like a 54-year-old woman, who's not a supermodel, And as a matter of fact, well, let me even take that back. No, you should not simp, period, even for a 25-year-old, because if you simp and that's what attracts them, they will always require you to simp, right? So I'm going to take that even back. So it doesn't matter. But yeah, first date, drove 50 minutes altogether, or an hour or whatever. Just like he spent more time driving than he spent talking to her. And again, unacceptable. By the way, I do not, like, I only meet my first dates at the coffee shop that I go to every day that's 3 minutes away. I had women drive 3 hours or ride buses or whatever, public transportation to meet me here. Because here's the thing, if you are a man who can provide for the family, who can be a good man, who can be a good father of the children if you want to have children, who's a good decision maker, who's educated, all of those things, you are the prize, not her. And men don't even realize that. So, and I'm a busy man. I'm not going to waste my time on girls, which half of them don't even show up or don't show up on time. Yesterday I sent a girl home. I kid you guys not, you're probably going to think I'm a little cruel, but the girl took 3 hours to get to me yesterday. And she told me she was running late 10 minutes into when she was supposed to be here. And she did not reply to any of my messages throughout the day. And she said she has half an hour more to go. Go home. Go home. If you cannot respect my time, you cannot respect me as a man, go home. I don't care what you're offering, So he just, and then, like I said, what is the price here? Why are you doing this? Who's going to benefit from this relationship the most? And then like, you're going to get 50 minutes. She couldn't give you time after work or on the weekend, because I require a girl to not only come to me because I'm the guy who's busy, because I'm going to be paying for that lunch, right? So I'm busy making that money. Secondly, I want to see some effort. Thirdly, I want to see more effort. I want you to put a nice clothes on. I want you to put heels on. I want you to put makeup on. You know what I mean? She had to do none of that. She literally just had to go downstairs so she can be bought lunch and entertained for 50 minutes. But guys do this all the fucking time. All the fucking time. This is why men are unhappy, like me, unhappy with Western women, is because what you permit, you promote, right? And when you permit all this stuff and you still end up giving them money and time and attention and all that stuff. So this is a big topic. I think the biggest new revolution is going to happen in men and women relationships. And I would like to be a big part of it, just like I was part of the electric car revolution. Yeah, definitely. Salt with a deadly weapon. When you throw a frying pan into someone's head, and like, by the way, the guy didn't report it, right? The guy didn't go to police and report his wife, and he didn't leave his wife. Your wife tried to hurt you physically, and you're staying with her. Sure, we're going to talk about marriages on my channel, for sure. The best couple I've ever met in my life is where both are always worried about the other's happiness. I agree. Honestly, that could probably just be one of the best definitions of a happy relationship. Yeah. Print it on a t-shirt. You nailed it with this video, which this video was about everything. Volkswagen and gun control and women and Thailand. So what are we talking about here? All right, guys. Like, this is too much fun, but honestly, if I don't stop, I will definitely lose my voice. And it's 2:30 in the morning, and I'm really tired because I just played a soccer game before that. And before that, I had a date. So I'm tired after that. Why don't we meet the next time, the same place, same time? Actually, I'm not going to, because I was late today, I'm going to go back to doing it at 1 a.m. But in your countries, I'm sure you're going to have the switch of time, right? We don't do it here in Thailand, which one of many things I love about Thailand. It's ridiculous time change twice a year. So we don't do it, but I will go live next Wednesday at 1 a.m. or Thursday, 1 a.m. my time. That's the way it should be. However, we've been taught the women is the prize since we were kids. No, we weren't taught that. I mean, at least I wasn't. The society, the feminism that has overtaken our Western societies has forced that into it, right? One of the reasons is for companies to capitalize on it for jewelry sales, for example. Honestly, no. It's because men allowed it. It's because men allowed it. That's why. And like I said, I'm going to talk about it in my course and my channel is social media and dating apps, right? An average looking girl before that for many years, actually thousands of years, knew that she was an average looking girl. And she would have to go after probably an average looking guy who earns an average salary, which is not a bad deal, you know? But now an average looking girl can get on TikTok, Instagram, dating app, and have a bunch of fucking pathetic sims telling her how pretty she is, how beautiful she is. Some of them will offer money, some of them will give her money, some of them will offer trips and gifts. And if you're an average girl who has tons of guys consistently telling how beautiful and special she is and throw money at her, what do you think is going to happen? She's going to think she is a princess. And that's what happens. Like, here I'll leave you guys with this. I'm learning Thai. So one of the things that I do is I go on TikTok and I catch live streams from Thailand. Half of them are just a bunch of girls sitting around talking or whatever. That's how they make money here, whatever. And every time I tune into a girl talking to a camera, even if she's average, we got a bunch of Western losers in the comment section going, "You're so beautiful. You're so pretty. I'd love to marry you. Why don't you know?" I'm like, and this is like majority of men nowadays. How pathetic do you have to be that you get online, watch a girl on the webcam, and shower her with compliments and sometimes send money to her just because she's pretty? That's what men have demoted themselves into. So no wonder women are taking advantage of it. They'll take our money, our compliments, our time, and give us absolutely nothing in return. So why not? And that's why I live in Thailand. Uh, okay, guys, I am out of questions anyway. Thank you to the real JC for the conversation. Thank you to Rob for a great conversation and the only super chat of the whole thing, but that will last me for days. The mango stick and rice that I can buy for this money is going to be limitless. But in everybody else who participated, guys, once again, I have to say that compared to the rest of the social media and my comment section of my regular videos, this has been every week a pretty decent and respectful conversation. Even though I know my opinions is not something that you all agree with or like, and yet I feel like we're having a pretty good conversation every time. So thanks for hanging out with me. We've been on live for like 2.5 hours. I thought I was going to lose my voice after 1 hour, but for some reason I haven't. So yes, I will see you next Wednesday. And as always, remember to stay charged.